Well, today is Sunday the 10th of November. We came down here yesterday afternoon, worked about 2.5 hours in the garden, and we got up all the tomato plants and all the tomato stakes. And we pulled all these beans yesterday, and I just pulled the beans there. Sorry about the wind, but it is howling. It's not that cold. If I wasn't in the shade, I wouldn't have to wear a light jacket. We got 2 rows to pick up, the tomatoes and the stakes over there, and the peppers, and those beans. And those 3 trash cans right there next to that compost pile have all the tomato plants and all 4 trash cans, excuse me, and all the beans in them. And since we grow our beans on bird netting, we just roll the netting up with it because it would be impossible to get the beans off the netting after it's been used. That's all the okra in the wheelbarrow. Glad we got that up before it froze. And after the sun gets over here, I'll show you some roots on that stuff. Well, it's still howling down here, and all we got is that little thing of beans and the fences that were around the beans. I just want to show you these okra plants. We have to use the shovel to get most of them out. Pardon the wind, I'm trying to shelter it with my body. But that's a serious okra plant with a serious okra root. That's my foot, folks. I'd say it goes at least 2 feet on either side. There's a couple more of them. Now this is one of the roots off of my tomato plant, and this is pretty typical. And this was pulled yesterday, so it's dried out a little bit. But this is a picnic table that's probably 6 inches long. And the roots are at this end, and the roots are at the other end. And that's after losing half of the roots. See, all this root came out from the stem that I buried, right at the junction of the soil line, because all the bottom rotted off earlier from all the rains. Just think, what would have happened if I hadn't lost those bottom roots? And these are the roots on our pepper plants. There's 4 of them here. That's not too bad a root system. That's why we had such a good year. That's a serious, that's a lot of roots for a pepper plant. Well, I got to take some of this to the landfill. This will go on our compost pile, and all the okra is going to be chopped up with a machete and thrown on this pile. And unfortunately, my tomatoes got a little disease at the end, and the beans have wire netting on them, so I've got to take that to the landfill. Well, it's still Sunday the 10th of November, and the garden's full. My bride's out there leveling out some leaves and pine needles that we've picked up from our neighbor's yard and our yard. The beans are all gone. All these are all gone. We might get a rake and pull out a few squash plants in case there was a little bit of disease there. I know it's getting dark. And those beans are pretty much shot. We just haven't pulled them yet. And the others, that's on a wire fence, so we'll pull it off the fence and put it on the compost pile. But I would say not quite, at least half of it's covered in leaves. And you can see we've got this about 10 inches deep, but it won't be 10 inches deep next spring. And we've got pine needles in our old worn out trailer. We've gotten this whole yard up, our front yard, our neighbor's yard, and that community place down in the bottom. And we are going to put this on a garden because it's a mixture of apple leaves and pine needles. And here's our okra in the compost pile, chopped up with a machete. I'll spread that out a little bit evenly across the top, and then we'll cover it with leaves.